The back table over here, we do have a raffle. We'll be giving away gift cards to the Crow's Nest today. So please make sure you've got your name on one of those so you can get in. And you have to be present to win. Also on the raffle ticket, you can put your email down, and that way you can also get newsletters for future Bon Appetits. So please feel free to do that. Also over there on that island we have recipes and the schedule. There has been an update to the schedule. Next week, Rob Cadine, or the next one, I'll let Reuben, Mr. Gerber from the Crow's Nest, take it away and let him work his magic.
Excellent. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Who was here last class? I recognize quite a few faces in here from the risotto class.
Yeah.
Excellent. We had fun, didn't we? That was a blast. I want to do these like every weekend. That would be great. So today is gnocchi. Lots of different types of gnocchi. Italy has several regions. Every region has their own style of making gnocchi. This is Parisian gnocchi, so from Paris. Only because it's a slightly different style dough. It's similar to a pâte à choux, which is like a eclair dough, French pastry dough. You'd make several different desserts out of it if you added sugar, added butter. But the basic formulation of ratio of liquid to eggs to flour and the method of making it in a hot pot until it releases from the sides. It's a style of pâte à choux, so Parisian gnocchi. It's a very Italian dish, gnocchi, but it's a very light, fluffy, pillowy style gnocchi. So in pasta, or in Italy, when you're dealing with pasta, heavy sauce. So if you're making like a bolognese, a very rich meat, veal, pork, rabbit, duck, anything like that, very rich, you're going to use a heavy noodle, like a pappardelle noodle, a tagliatelle noodle, or even a heavy potato gnocchi. For this, we're not using potatoes, we're using flour, milk, cheese, eggs. So it's very light, very delicate. You'd use a gnocchi like that for more delicate dishes. We had a dish last summer in the Crow's Nest with this style gnocchi with black cod and a romesco sauce. We were making gnocchi twice a day, every day for, gosh, I think all of summer. So just to keep it rolling. It's a very easy, fun gnocchi to play with, where you have lots of variables in making dough or making pasta in a room. Your environment, what's happening, is it raining? Well, right now it feels like summer outside to me, but a lot of times that will play into the dough that you're making. So potatoes, some potatoes are more moist than other potatoes. How long did you bake the potato? So this is a gnocchi omitting one of the big variables in gnocchi, but also making a much lighter gnocchi. So we have a couple recipes. We've got gnocchi, we've got pesto, and the tomato sauce as well. So I always like to kind of get an idea of the recipes and what's going to take me the longest first. We'll start on that first. We'll get our tomato sauce going. As that's going, we'll start making our gnocchi. As our gnocchi's cooling in the fridge, which we have one refrigerator on, so you'll see me doing some hot laps in here, getting back and forth to the fridge, and then we'll get our pesto going after that. Sound good? Cool. I'll probably ask for a couple volunteers to help out as well by running or making gnocchi, but this is a hands-on, just like risotto, so don't be shy. Get up in here, get on camera, be famous. I'm not famous. And gather around the pot and I'll get in there, and that's how you learn. It's hands-on. You're making pasta. So we'll get a pasta board going here. We'll be rolling these things off a little gnocchi board like this. You can find these either online. In town, I think you can find, there's a new store that opened up, Zucchini's, a little cooking store. I did see them there. Oh, not Crate and Barrel, Williams Sonoma, I think, online. What's the other cooking store in town next to Natural Pantry? Yes, they have them. Perfect place to go get them.
Where's Zucchini's?
Zucchini's is on, it's right next to Lowe's. It's in the Lowe's shopping center. It's where the new Johnson tires went in, and it's a great little store. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so they come in different widths, different sizes, but the idea is they all have little ridges on them. So it's a pasta rustica or also pasta rigata, penne rigata, pasta with ridges. The whole idea of the ridges is for the sauce to grab onto. To me, pasta is the transport vehicle, but it's all about the sauce. So it's either about the pesto or the tomato sauce or whatever sauce you're making, but you want to get that to adhere to the pasta somehow. We do that with little ridges. Cool? All right. So first recipe we'll start working on is our tomato sauce. So San Marzano tomatoes, everybody familiar with these? It's probably the only can I ever opened. This and coconut milk, that's it. Everything for me is all about the raw ingredients, letting them shine. This is one phenomenal tomato. You really only find it in a can because they're grown in Italy. They have tried to duplicate a similar tomato. It's a Roma, a very pointed Roma tomato. Generally in the 32nd parallel, you find them in Calabria, Sicily. You'll also find them in Naples. You'll find them in southern Spain, southern California, anywhere along that 32nd parallel. So San Marzano tomatoes, you can find them here in town at Nusagaya. Where else? I believe Fred Meyer's on Abbott. They also carry them. They also make a sauce there. It's a San Marzano sauce. You'll see a all-white label with a little San Marzano tomato on it. You'll also see DOC, DOCG, or DOP. This is the Controle denomination, Original Controle, just like in wine, AOC, Appellation Original Controle. This is to a governing body protects the tomato, the soil that it's grown in, whether it's watered or not watered, and the process of canning. We don't have anything like this here in America, but it's beautiful. They protect everything. Prosciutto di Parma, it can't be called prosciutto di Parma unless it follows the strict guidelines of making prosciutto in Parma, aging it for the time it's aged. It's beautiful. Parmigiano Reggiano, same thing, aged for 2 years. It's a governing body that protects all of these wonderful, wonderful foods. So the only can I open, but it's worth it. They're delicious. So we'll start on those. Recipe calls for 5 or 6 vine-ripened tomatoes. Hard to find in Alaska. Bell's does a pretty good job of vine-ripened tomatoes, or do it yourself in a little hot house, or hydro as well. So any tomatoes will work, Romas, things like that. I love San Marzano tomatoes, and you can make it just with this, but I also want to add this fresh tomato acidic element to that sauce as well. So we'll start by chopping our onions, our fennel, a little bit of garlic, and we'll get this thing going. So we'll turn. I like, ideally, we saw this I think when we made the risotto. I like things with sauces with straight sides. You could try and make sauce in a saute pan, but the heat's coming off the sides. You want heat coming away from and not up the side, so it's not burning your sauce that you're working so hard to create. Any questions so far? We're good? Okay, onions, what's it called for? 2 large white onions. A little rubbish bin or a little waste bin somewhere here. Am I missing it? Just a little one. So are we supposed to get more rain, or is it just supposed to snow eventually here? More rain, is that it?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you so much. So we want to start our sauce by sweating our onions, our garlic, our fennel. You can use red onions, you could use sweet onions. I enjoy the flavor of just a white or yellow onion, but I also love fennel in there. It helps sweeten up the sauce. It chops away at a little bit of the acidity as well. So just julienne, thin slices.
I remember one one time you said that you were going to do like a knife class. Are you still
Yes,
going to do that?
I would love to. It's up to SBS whenever you guys want to schedule me. And I'd love to do a series with you guys on knife skills, and it'd be
I
super
don't
fun.
think I'd have any fingers left.
With a class, you'd be surprised. You'd nail it. First class, you'd figure it out.
Or I'd
It's-
have no fingers.
Or have no fingers. One or the other. So ideally, medium-high heat. We don't really want any color on our onions or our fennel. Oblong is what we're looking for, just white but translucent, kind of broken down. Let's have our garlic. Everyone enjoy fennel? Everybody like the flavor of like anise, and very refreshing. Delicious in salads just on its own. And it's okay to mix, you know, all these together. They're all kind of going in at once.
How are you cutting that, top to bottom?
I cut the fennel bulb in half from top to bottom, and it will release itself, kind of the structure. I believe it's kind of in the grass family, so it grows from the center out, similar to like palms, things like that. So you can easily, if you just cut the base on it, release it each time. Very strange flavor is the core of the fennel. I've noticed you could blindfold somebody, taste this and taste the carrot, and you can't tell the difference. I don't know why. It's really strange. But you taste the outside of it, and it's like anise. It's very like licorice kind of flavor.
So you're cutting after you cut it in half, you're cutting across.
Correct. Yeah. It's once it's in half. No, actually, I'm just following the.
Oh.
Yeah. Either way, you know, you're cooking it down, so it doesn't make that much difference, but it's a little bit easier to lay flat on the board and cut it.
So are you using the core?
I am using the core, yeah. Unless it's a very large fennel bulb, I'd probably omit it just because it's a little bit rough. But okay, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil.
Any particular brand of olive oil?
As long as it's an extra virgin olive oil, I'm very happy with Spain, Italy. They're wonderful olive oils. Even Greece produces some great olive oils as well. You don't want to get extra virgin olive oil too hot. It's not a very good oil to cook with because it has a very low smoking point. Smoking point meaning it'll become carcinogenic. So grapeseed oil is a very high smoking point. It's a very neutral oil, so it's a great oil for searing fish, searing scallops, searing meat, things that you're going to take to a much higher
You
temperature.
wouldn't use peanut oil in the restaurant.
No, only because a lot of people are sensitive to nuts and have nut allergies, so I try and omit things like that to where, you know, people have sensitivities, things like that. Okay, and you can either, I think it notes in the recipe there, you can either add a little bit of veg stock or a little bit of water. Now's the time also to add a little bit of salt, which will help break down and release the liquid of the onions. That way they won't burn on the bottom, they'll sweat. So we'll add just a little bit of water. We'll add our garlic. And I would add a bay leaf or laurel leaf. And that's the one thing I forgot. I'm really sorry. But I'm sure you all have one in your kitchen. Everybody know what a laurel leaf, bay leaf is for? It makes soups, what it does. What's that?
You don't want to eat it, but you want to take it out.
No. For me, growing up, I always found it in the soup, and my mom told me that was good luck. And then I found out that whoever got the bay leaf got to wash the dishes. So I didn't feel so lucky anymore. Yeah, luck for her, exactly. But it adds a wonderful depth of flavor to a lot of dishes. Laurel or bay, basically the same family. South America, you'll find them using avocado leaves in a lot of cooking and a lot of sauces to add that same depth of flavor as well. Hard to pick out, but a wonderful aroma on its own. Bay leaf is great for desserts even too, and make a bay leaf panna cotta, which is delicious. It's a wonderful, very aromatic flavor. A lot of fun. We are. We have a prefix menu. It's right now 5 or 6 courses. We did a menu similar for New Year's as well. We sold out. It was wonderful. So we will definitely sell out in the next probably, I would say, 4 weeks for Valentine's Day. Yeah, there's kind of a play on Valentine's Day. There's a tongue-in-cheek dish on there as well. It's a chestnut smoked beef tongue with veal cheeks, gnocchi. The same gnocchi will be on the menu as well. Wonderful sauce with that. There's a scallop dish with a cauliflower puree. There's a compressed watermelon salad with frisee, cucumber carpaccio. What else? Some fun stuff. So you could call the hotel. I probably won't answer, but yes, I know there's plenty of seats available right now. So I'm already working on a menu right now for September, which is a Shane dinner. It's going to be for Shane de Rotisserie. It's a big global organization. Kind of a gastronomique society. I'm doing a locavore dinner. So my project that I came up with is to find everything within about a 200-mile radius in Alaska. The entire menu. It's for 100 people. It's 9 courses plus a muse plus an intermezzo. So it's about 11 courses. I'm already working on that right now, experimenting with flavors, with ingredients, creating new stuff. So spring menu, we're working on that. I started 2 weeks ago on spring menu. So it's a lot of, we don't have time in the summer to create. We just have time to kind of put our heads down and just plow through the season. But it's January now, it's fun time. I get to play with food and play with ingredients.
One more question.
Yes.
So the other one is, like, as a teacher, I always have like prep periods, and I work on the weekends and stuff. So do you have, as a chef, then do you have like a day where you just play with ingredients and all of your kitchen gets together and you all collaborate?
I wish we had that luxury. I've had that luxury in other places that I've worked. I came from the resort at Pelican Hill where they gave me a day just to experiment and play with food. Now I do it on my day off, but I'm constantly, I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning looking at recipes, getting ideas, playing with stuff, just making notes constantly. As a chef, you're constantly, or just a food geek like myself, you're constantly playing, coming up with ideas. Yeah, a lot of stuff we do during service on the line. We're like, hey, we get an idea, everybody gets together, we start playing with stuff, and bam, we got a new dish, just like that. Yeah, it's fun. It's very rewarding. It's incredibly stimulating all the time. Yes. Okay, so we're going to sweat our onions to their just au blanc, no color, but kind of translucent a little bit. And then we'll add our whole tomatoes first, which will take a little bit longer to cook down, break down the skin. Then we will add our 2 cans. We're going to drain this. If you notice, most of my recipes, and even from the risotto class, I use the metric system. A little bit different than what most people use. I love using a scale. It's very accurate, especially with bread, making gnocchi. We talked about variables. If we all, there's probably what, 80 people in here, 85 people? If we all took a cup of flour, I guarantee if we took all those cups of flour and we put them on a scale, each one, we probably have 60 different measurements. Is it a packed cup of flour? Did we sweep our finger off the top? Was it loosely packed? Is there humidity in the room? The beauty is with the metric system is you chop out all the variables. So you have accuracy, you have consistency. The person that comes in and gets the gnocchi dish on Tuesday in the restaurant comes back on Saturday, regardless of who makes it, if they understand the method, we're gonna get the same results. And in the home, that's pastry, that's baking. And if you can transform that into cooking, when you find something you really like, you play with it, even your seasoning, you add all of it. It's all about documentation. So as this young lady asked about, like, as you're experimenting and playing with food, I'm constantly, as soon as I get an idea, it's like I have to duplicate it, I have to document it, I have to weigh it, I have to know how I achieved that flavor, and then try and perfect it and get it again. And the scale is the easiest way to do that.
What's the weight of your tomatoes?
The weight of
Your tomatoes.
the weight of the tomatoes. Now there's another recipe that's not really in the metric system. It's eaches, because it's a little bit more free form. Where sauces, tomato sauce, I'm not super particular. I am about the cans and draining it. So you're left with about 500-ish grams as you strain the can. But not super critical with a tomato sauce. But pasta, absolutely.
Question on your San Marzano tomatoes. Have you found a difference from the ones that are grown in California versus the ones
In Italy?
yeah.
Absolutely. In Calabria, in the south of Italy, it's extremely hot, 80-degree days. I mean, Southern California, I think it's 80 degrees yesterday. But yeah. But there is a difference. I can taste it. Less acidity, and I think it's more in the cooking process in the actual can. I have grown them myself and had great luck growing them in Southern California, but I still can't achieve that same tomato. I don't know what it
Is that
is.
attributed to the AOC equivalent of canning?
It's probably the microclimate and the soil more than anything else. The sedimentary layers, limestone as well. Things that you might find there will definitely influence, just like grapes. No different than wine. The terroir is what's really affecting the tomato. In California, I had a small family farm. We made our own soil from vermicomposting and regular composting. So that added a whole new dimension of flavor to the tomato, but it lacked what the soil could provide in southern Italy.
You need to bring some dirt from Italy over here.
What's that?
You just need to bring some dirt from Italy over here.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So, a couple things on tomatoes. A lot of Italians would take this, squeeze these right over a trash can, wipe them clean and get rid of the seeds. That's pretty common in making a little bit heavier sauce. A lot of Italians feel that seeds are for birds and humans don't consume them. So they would add this to a tomato sauce. Either way, I don't like to waste things, but at the same time, if you don't want a watery sauce and you want a thicker sauce, it's an easy way to achieve that.
You don't remove the skins from your tomatoes?
I'm not removing these. They will cook down, and ideally you could take this and just blend it on high in a blender, or you could put it in a Roboku and blend it, and the skins will just emulsify. The skins in the San Marzanos are removed though.
How many servings are you creating there?
This would feed probably, if it was a pasta dish, like if you were just gonna pour this sauce over pasta, you'd probably feed 15, 20 people comfortably. Does anybody grow tomatoes? Yes? What kind of tomatoes? They don't grow very well. I've struggled. I lived, before coming to the Crow's Nest, I was at Jack Sprat. I ran Jack Sprat in Girdwood for 2 years. And being a tomato farmer in California, basil and such other things, I thought, oh, well, I'll be fine. And I attempted, and it was terrible. The first year we were there, it rained. I think we broke the record from like 1932 or something like that. It rained like 52 days straight, and I had no luck with tomatoes. Lots of snails, no tomatoes.
Last summer, we got a ton of tomatoes, but they never turned red.
Yes.
Just stayed green the whole time.
Yes, it's common up here.
That's the
I
Alaska
think,
state plant, it's a green.
yeah, yep. I have a green tomato on our menu up in the Crow's Nest. It's a BLT with a fried green tomato and pork belly and tomato jam. San Marzano tomato jam. Super fun dish. I like green tomatoes, but I prefer a fresh, ripened tomato. Bell's, they do a great job. They really do. There's a couple people in the valley. Babbling Brook Farms, they have a hot house. They do a pretty good job at Sweet 100, some heirlooms. A lot of good stuff that comes out of the valley if we have a hot year, you know. But we might have one this year. It's 40-something degrees outside right now. So, okay, our sauce is going well. We can get started on our gnocchi, and then we'll finish up with our pesto. Let me just open these and drain them so we're ready to go.
Do you use tomato stems or flavor?
I don't, only because I've known them to be toxic at certain levels. So, yeah, I prefer not to use them at all, but I've never tried. Have you? Yeah.
What was the question?
If I use tomato stems at all for anything.
Oh, that's what it is.
You normally save that liquid for something else.
Yes. Yeah, if I was making a bolognese sauce and I was going to cook it down, like a very fresh tomato sauce, 22 minutes of cooking, you know, not much more than that. Kind of depends on how big your tomatoes are. But if I was making a very rich sauce, tomato sauce with red wine, or maybe starting with some pork fat like pancetta or guanciale, like pork jowl, which is delicious in a sauce, I'd be cooking the sauce for hours and hours, probably all day. And I'd add that liquid because it's just going to break down and enrichen the sauce. And, yeah. You could also take these, chop them on the cutting board. I do find the smaller cans to be broken down quite well versus the big, like number 10 cans. So shouldn't really have to do too much.
Were those tomatoes right from the market, or did you sit them on the counter?
Those are the ones I was slicing. Those are vine ripened, but I've had them out for probably 3 days, and they've come up a little bit at room temperature. I don't like tomatoes in the refrigerator. Changes the taste considerably. I think they also absorb things from the refrigerator, kind of like butter. I don't want to taste my refrigerator, so yeah, I just leave them on the counter. Okay, and this is really breaking down nicely. I don't know if anybody can see this in the mirror. Can you guys see what I'm doing? love one of those for my driveway this morning. I could actually, instead of hitting the tree, I would have made it out cleanly this morning. Okay, we're gonna add our San Marzano tomatoes. There is a little bit of basil in the can too. They always include a little basil leaf in there. I just add it in the sauce, blend it up, it's fine. And I'll leave one can up here just so everyone can see the label on it and be familiar with it. You'll look for it in the store. Okay, gnocchi time. We're gonna let our sauce go, just kind of turn it down a little bit. Okay. All right. Has everyone kind of read through the gnocchi recipe? So, method is we want to bring our milk to a simmer. It's 1 liter of milk. We're going to add to the milk right away the salt and the nutmeg. There is a measurement on there of salt and nutmeg. A couple pinches of salt. A small pinch of nutmeg is fine. Salt is completely up to you. But you should salt your pasta water. Should be as salty as the ocean. So just take a taste, see if it's there. For me, that's the way I like it, but it's entirely up to you. So we've got our liter of milk in there. We're gonna add our salt and our nutmeg.
Would you be safe using kosher salt? Every time a recipe calls for salt.
I always use kosher salt. That's what I was taught in culinary school. That's what I became calibrated to. Like a table salt is very challenging to adjust, and all of a sudden you over-season something and you've just ruined it. So to me, growing up in a kosher home, two with lots of kosher salt, I've just become calibrated. I know exactly how much a pinch is to how much volume of salt I want in something. Okay, so once our milk comes to a simmer, we're going to add our flour. What's going to happen? It's going to explode if we don't turn our heat off. It's all going to come up and off the top and make a big mess, and they'll never invite me back again. So we'll turn our heat off, start to incorporate the flour, turn the heat back on high. We're going to start moving it really, really fast, bringing it together like we were a human dough hook. Once it releases from the sides of the pot, we'll take it off the heat. We'll start to incorporate our cheese immediately, and then our eggs one at a time. So it calls for 500 grams of flour, 175 grams of eggs, which is roughly 3 large eggs in 1 yolk, or 4 small eggs. When in doubt, always add more yolk instead of white. You'll come up with a richer pasta.
So is that weight, the 175 grams, is that out of the shell?
Out of the shell, correct. Yeah. And generally all weights and measurements for myself in the metric system, like if I just start putting recipes up online, which we should be doing here pretty soon for the crow's nest, it will always be the end result. So that if it calls for a vegetable stock and it calls for 800 grams of carrots, it would be the peeled carrots or onions already peeled, things like that. So most classic French recipes are written that way if they're in the metric system as well. Okay, we're getting close. Parm. Bench. Bench flour is extra flour that you need for incorporating On the bench, yeah. I just call it bench flour, or pastry chefs will call it bench flour. Pasta is something that when you're making bread or making dough, like I said earlier, you have variables. So you never know every day how much flour you're going to need. It could be a very humid day, and all of a sudden you're going to need more flour. It's just going to start, your dough is going to start eating flour. Or it's a very hot, dry day, and you realize, oh wow, what's going on here? I need more liquid. I need more eggs. So it's something that you have a relationship with. I love making bread and pasta in the morning. It's warming to your hands, to your soul. It just feels good to make. It's happiness. Okay. Is it better if I make the gnocchi over here? Can everybody see it better from here or on that side? On this side?
It's better for us.
Yeah? Okay, good. Better for you guys. All right. I'll do it on this side. It's a little bit easier. So ideally, before you start your gnocchi, have a pot of water going. I'm just using this because it's easier to get it out of a pot, and I think it's got more surface area too. You can kind of see what's going on there. So, and our sauce is smelling good. I didn't turn the hood on. Is that okay? Everybody smell the sauce instead of everybody outside? For the nutmeg, if you just use regular whole nutmeg instead of already previously ground, get yourself a little microplaner. Same thing with the cheese. If you just get a block of Parmigiano Reggiano, these little guys or zesters as well work nicely. Sometimes on a box grater you'll find the very thin side works great. I like these because when they come with a little smiley face, and yeah, they just work great. So. And you end up with a nice, just little flakes of Parmigiano Reggiano. You could use other cheeses as well with this gnocchi. Be creative. Think about even different liquids as well. You could use Taleggio cheese for very rich. You could use sheep's milk cheese as well if you're looking for a little bit saltier gnocchi. If you're planning Super Bowl Sunday and you don't know what to make and you don't want pesto or pasta because you're feeling like, hey, I kind of want ranch dressing, drop these gnocchi balls in the fryer. They're like little tater tots and dip them in ranch. They're delicious.
What time are you serving?
Okay, we're getting close here.
Is there a specific brand of flour that you like to use?
Yes. I have a tendency to not eat much gluten because I think it bothers me on occasion. But I've used Zero flour. It's an Italian flour, but you can find it here in the States. All-purpose flour. I'm trying to think of the brand. King Arthur. Bread flour doesn't work that well for this application. Okay, so we're at a simmer. I don't know if you guys can see that okay in the mirror. We're adding our flour right now. Off the heat. Start to incorporate back on the heat. And this is the really fun part. It'll just form this shaggy dough. This is how Italian grandmothers get big forearms. Until it releases itself from the sides and the bottom. And now you have a nice shaggy dough here. So we'll kill our heat. Oops, wrong one. I'm going to make a little well in the center. I'm going to add our cheese. So I have had some great luck making this with a combination of rice flour and chickpea flour as well for a gluten-free version of gnocchi. They do come out pretty dense, similar to a potato gnocchi, but they're great. And if anyone has sensitivities to gluten, that's a nice combination. About 60% chickpea flour to 40% rice flour. The rice flour is the really dense part.
You could take that shaggy dough and put it in your mixer.
You could. It's not something that, and you would if you were making pâte à choux, like a eclair. You would want it to cool down first. So whipping it is going to help cool it down, or else you'll cook your eggs. This style of gnocchi is something that you want to work hot and very hot in order to get and achieve the nice ridges on it and get it cooled down fast enough. This is a pasta that you're only boiling for about a minute or two, whereas if it was potato, you'd boil it for probably 9 minutes. So it's just a little bit.
Science project.
What's that? Yeah, exactly.
So you do sometimes make this with like mashed potato? I've heard of.
A gnocchi, absolutely. You can make it with potatoes. This particular style of gnocchi, as a Parisian gnocchi, is made like a pâte à choux pastry, almost like a pastry dough.
So if you do the potato one, it's instead of flour?
No, you're still
flour
adding
too.
some
You still
flour,
have
but
some
it's
flour.
mostly potato in a
Oh.
potato gnocchi. Yeah. But the other aspect of using a mixer is you don't want to over mix your gluten net. As the glutens form in the dough and they start to come together, they become very elastic. Like when you have to let a dough rest, you make a pizza dough and you go to stretch it out and you rolled it out and all of a sudden just go. That's why you probably over mixed it a little bit. So typically with this pasta, I like to do it by hand. And we're doing small batches, unless you're feeding an army.
How do you do it in the restaurant?
What's that?
How do you do it in the restaurant?
We do it by hand,
Just by hand.
twice a day. Yeah. That's why my fish cook has big forearms. All right, so that was egg 3, yolk 4 for 175 grams. And it's still a little bit moist. And this is something that as you make it, you'll just become familiar with it. And what it's doing, you'll learn how to read the dough based on the weather, based on the environment, what's going on. Is it hot in your house? Do you have a window open? All these things are going to affect it. Like right now, this is a little bit more moist than when I made it at 7 o'clock this morning in the kitchen at the Crow's Nest to make a little extra. So a little bit different. We're going to add a little bit more flour. When we add our bench flour as well, we'll be incorporating a little bit more flour into it. This will help release it off from the sides of the pot. Get a little bench flour down.
Make an Alaskan variation, make it sourdough.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Chef,
Yes?
this is a Anchorage Birdwood question.
Yes.
Having been at Jack Sprat, obviously passing the spot, would you comment on that water that comes out of that? effort
Sure,
in Anchorage
sure.
Birdwood?
I've heard, legend has it, that it's not a spring. It's just water that's running up top that trickles down through the rocks, which does in fact filter it. But is it an actual spring? I don't think so. Yeah, it's great water, tons of minerality in the water. You know, it's like licking a wet stone. You can taste it. It's delicious. We have great water in Girdwood. Still have great water in Anchorage as well. But it's, I don't think it's a spring from everyone I've talked to. But does anybody else know? Is it a real spring or not? I think it's just table water up top filtering down through rock. But. What's that? Sure. I have, yes. Yes, it's a dense flour. Forms a great gluten net. Makes great beer as well. If there's any beer connoisseurs out there, it's a great beer, which I wish that a couple local beer makers were using a lot of local, but I think the volume is a little bit hard to keep up with. And we're pretty close to being done on our sauce there. Okay. So you don't want to over knead it, but you do want to incorporate the flour into this. You'll find about a quarter of the way through it, the environment has changed your dough. You might need to add a little bit more flour again. So this is a gnocchi you're going to drop in hot water. It's going to float to the surface. When it floats to the surface for 1 minute, consider it done. At that point, you want to use, you can use an aluminum sheet tray. I like to use a plastic sheet tray because oil sometimes will react with, and hot things will react with aluminum. So it's one way to guarantee that your gnocchi is going to stay nice bright white and not turn to a metallic kind of color. Sometimes when you make dough on a steel bench, you notice your dough's a little gray while you're picking up stainless particulate matters from your bench. So. Okay, this is coming together nicely.
You say a plastic tray, you mean like a silicone tray?
Yeah, a silicone tray, or like what I have here, just these are plastic lids. Extra virgin olive oil will react with the gnocchi and turn them gray as well. It reacts with aluminum, so I typically will use a vegetable oil, canola oil, or grapeseed oil as well. Okay, so if we have any takers, if anybody wants to get in here, get their hands a little floured, we can start banging these out. It's up to you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to chop a piece off here, get a little bit more bench on there. Flatten these out to about 1 centimeter high. Then we're going to roll these out. The ladies are ready to get their pasta on. Awesome. So I had to wake up doing this with a cup of coffee at 7 o'clock.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, we will.
Wash your hands.
We will.
Okay, so we're going to cut these in about 1 centimeter little increments. We have a few runts of the litter there on the sides. Then, ever so delicately with a thumb, you have the side that you rolled, and then you have the cut side, which is kind of the adhesive side. This is the side that you want to roll against the gnocchi board. So we're going to come down with a thumb and off. This is what gives it those beautiful ridges.
Could you move those containers?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold it up there, so you guys can see it all over.
Show us again.
How's that? Everybody see?
Show us how you do it.
Okay, great.
So you just press and...
And I'm doing it on a slight bias only for aesthetics. It makes it a little bit prettier. But if you can look down at these, they're just absolutely gorgeous. You saw the time that it took to make this pasta versus making a potato gnocchi. As long as you're working this hot, it's pretty forgiving dough. So great if you're having a party. It's pretty entertaining.
Can you hold it up high and show us?
Sure. Just what you want to do when you make this, you don't want to let it drop, or else that hard work that you did to get the ridges in there, you'll drop it on the bench, and then they'll just go flat on you. But
It's the most labor-intensive dish I've ever seen.
it's pretty labor-intensive. Yeah, it's a labor of love for sure.
And then how do you clean your little board after
You never want to get it wet. That's one thing. Wood will bow. So I'll just knock it on the bench, take the scraper, kind of go in between, rub it on my hip. It's fine. Yeah, just as long as you don't get it wet, or else it'll sort of warp, and then you won't have ridges in the middle. Okay, I'll do one more and then we'll get someone to take over a little bit. We have a lot of mouths if you would possibly. Yeah.
Is that just too warm?
It is very warm. Yeah, you feel that. I'll warm your hands. Feels nice. See why I love doing this in the morning? It's like wonderful. Then you have your dinner party in the evening. It's perfect. Everything's done, ready to go. All right, we'll square these up again. You can. They also, it's a gnocchi that freezes very well. So if you cook them ahead of time, you could freeze them individually on like the same board that we'll put these on, like these little plastic trays. And then once they're frozen individually, you can then vacuum seal them. Okay, so we'll use one of these guys.
Should we put these on a...
Well, I'm going to take these right now. We're going to pop them in the water.
So in a kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, do you have interns that come in like?
We do, yeah. I have right now in the crow's nest a total of 5 employees. Hang out there for about a minute, onto the tray, into the cooler, and we'll get 2 of these things going so I can just keep rotating while my stars over here are making beautiful gnocchi. Look at that. Oh my God. A chinois. A chinois is like a fine mesh sieve.
That water?
I did. It's salty as the ocean. Prince William seawater. Has anyone ever made their own salt? You cook the water down, or at least I did. This is a recipe I followed from the internet. YouTube, I think. You can learn everything on YouTube these days. You cook the salt water down, boil it. I boil it for 16 hours. And it made a slurry. And once I got to a slurry, I strained it again, so the solids I was left with was predominantly sodium. From there it went on to sheet trays lined with sill pads, and then it went into a dehydrator oven. So
And then you have to break it up after?
I just went in and kind of flaked it every so often, and it was still pretty moist. It took another 2 to 3 days to really dry out. I had to spread it out super thin, but it's delicious salt, and I could say I made salt. It's cool, yeah. And it's even kosher. Okay, we got some more gnocchi popping up here. How are we doing on time?
Yeah.
Do we have to do a timeout or anything? Not yet? We're good? All right.
Now to cook kosher food, you have to have a kosher kitchen, right?
You do.
Everything.
You do, yeah, absolutely. Has to be blessed by a rabbi, the whole deal. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a bang.
Yeah.
I like that.
This is for this is for tomorrow for the football. Look at
that.
That thing's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go wide.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my God, she's got a huge pile.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sure, absolutely.
Do those look like the right size?
They look absolutely perfect. They're perfect.
Check it out. What's that?
I looked at that piece of
Oh, okay.
but it was splitting it.
Yo, you can put this, yeah.
All right, first order is Jimmy King.
Jimmy King, come on down. Where are you? Awesome. I'm gonna pass this around because it's like the middle of winter. It doesn't feel like it outside. But this now, we'll just take it out.
Yeah.
Where did you get your name?
That is shipped in from Santa Monica Market. So I have in summertime 2 growers in the valley that will do basil, sprouts as well. So we'll get it directly from Farmers Market. Vanderbilt Farms does a little bit of basil as well. A couple hot houses in the valley that we get it from.
I buy it at Farmers Market. Get it upstairs and
basil, like if you would like it to, maybe it's not realistic, but if you'd like it to last like a week. Like I cut the ends off and put it in a glass of water, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Change the water regularly. A little bit of citric acid, lemon juice will help in the water, a little bit of acidity. But trimming the bottom is the best thing you can do. Don't put it in your refrigerator, store it at 50 degrees. So a cool place next to a window in the kitchen is a good place to grow. Or keep it alive, grow it in your kitchen window. Just keep it in soil. That's a great way to do it.
Really good.
It's the same thing with like cilantro. Mine always spoils.
Yeah, cilantro goes so fast. It's a challenge. Grow it.
Grow it. Can you
Grow
grow
it.
it in your window?
You can.
You
Yeah,
can?
absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I know it. Oh, well, it always spoils before I use it all. It's not that I don't use it, it's just like, there's only 2 of us. And I can't put the cilantro every week, every day.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Do you do anything with these little ends?
We can roll them up together and make a couple more gnocchi balls. You girls are rock stars. Oh my god, that is perfect. Okay.
A little bit drier.
Okay, so we got our gnocchi going. We're making more. Let's start on our pesto.
Good kind of pesto at Costco. Sampling the other day, and I bought one of those. And boy, that was good.
Any questions about pesto before we roll into it? Yes.
Why the ice cube?
Why the ice cube? Good question. Traditionally, pesto in Italy, north of Tuscany, where marble comes from, same place where basil's grown. The beauty of marble is it holds its temperature. Generally, it stays slightly below 50 degrees, even in a room that's around 60 plus degrees. So traditionally, pesto would be made in mortar and pestle in a marble one, traditionally. So a food processor or a robocoup is basically a centrifuge. It spins like a blender and creates heat. What is the enemy of something beautiful and green? Heat.
Okay.
It's what breaks down the chlorophyll. So by using salt on top of ice, I'm bringing it below freezing. It's like 26 degrees, 27 degrees. And then I'm incorporating it that way. So yes, I'm adding a little bit more water, but I'm saving the beautiful bright green chlorophyll and the flavor that heat will break down. If I just put it in there and turn it on, it'll be like brown, not very pretty.
When you say ice, do you mean like a commercial ice machine, which is little cubes?
Yeah, little cubes, or just go out and hack an icicle off the roof and break it up with a hammer. It's totally fine. Yeah, just ice. Nothing special. And we got another round ready here. So we'll grab that first one.
For all your hard work.
Not hard at all.
So I'll make some room for these on the same board.
Okay, now I have to remember how to say it.
And in your home, if you've bought one of these wonderful refrigerators from SBS, it would be much closer. You wouldn't be tripping over the dog or the cat. It'd be fun. Round 4. Yes. We have 2 rock stars up there making it.
How long did he actually cook those for? Just 1 minute? Or did he simmer? After they okay. Simmers for I'm not watching that very well.
Okay. Basil. So if you buy a pound of basil and you eliminate the stems, you'll be left with roughly 400 grams-ish. So a lot of the recipes that I write are always written around the vessel that you're cooking in. So if you wanted to double the recipe, it might not fit in your food processor at home. If you have a little small food processor, probably just quarter the recipe, and you would be fine.
I have a question.
Yes.
I love basil, but I find that produce up here goes quite quickly.
Yes.
Fresh in the store, you know, maybe a day or so, I think people use it.
Right.
And I've heard about making it freeze it, but my attempt to freeze it, it looks like it's not useful. If I was there are boxes or stuff to do that.
Well, that's a great question. Freezing it, I would blanch it first and then ice bath it. You'd blanch it for roughly 10-15 seconds, then puree, and then ice bath it, and then puree it, and then freeze it in a little ice cube tray. And you'd have great luck with it that way. Or make a pesto, and I'll show you how to preserve it. If you make this pesto, follow the recipe, and get a fat cap on it with just extra virgin olive oil, saran wrap down. The enemy of something green, like pesto, is light. It's light sensitive and it's heat sensitive. So you can eliminate those 2 things and eliminate oxygen as well from it. It will keep for 3 weeks in the refrigerator. No problem. They are. I try not to use stuff like this, you know. I'll pick around it. But, you know, you don't want to get too dark. It's already kind of oxidizing, you know, a bit. That's the price we pay for living so far north of the 32nd parallel. But it's a trade-off.
What about drying it?
You can dry it. It's a significantly different flavor, though,
Yeah.
by drying it. Yeah, it's not the same. Can't think of anything that I use dry, with the exception of occasionally like Mexican oregano. So that's about it. And there's ice cream up there in that freezer. I didn't bring it, I just noticed it. If anybody's interested.
Oh, yeah. I tried it. My blender had like a 1/2 pint thing. Instead of doing a big
Chef, are you putting those in the freezer or the refrigerator?
In the refrigerator, yeah.
If I'm making it on a day like today, and I had a decent place, could I just stick it outside?
Absolutely, yeah. Your neighbors would absolutely appreciate that. Just, there might be some gone when you come back. Yeah, a lot of things I'll cool down outside. Right now in the wintertime when I make a chicken stock at home or a fish stock, I just take the pot, it goes outside, I stick it in the snow, I go back inside, sit in front of the fireplace. Yeah, it's just, you know, what's that? I do. I have two sled dogs. They stay inside when the fish stock's outside. I do. The salmon bones, I'll rinse the bones. I'll take the bloodline out of the spine. I use the collar and the whole spine and regular water, but I'll rinse them for about an hour or 2 just to get all the blood out of the fish. If it was properly caught, troll caught, and then bled out, it'll make a much nicer stock. If it's just hit on the head and you know, it doesn't make a very good stock. And then in that stock I'll use fennel white onion, a little bit of white wine, some peppercorns, some parsley stems. Let it simmer for 20 minutes. Let it all the particulate matter go to the bottom, and then scoop off the top, and it makes a wonderful, almost like a fish consomme, delicious stock. Celery as well. Yeah, bay leaf, celery, a little bit of fennel, leek, onion, white wine, parsley stems, peppercorns. Isn't that the most wonderful aroma? Everyone pass that around.
Yeah,
It is so nice.
Is that just one of those big boxes of basil or Fred Meyer?
I haven't seen the big boxes there. It probably is. This is just, I ordered a pound. I bought these from Di Tomaso, just one of our local distributors here in Anchorage. But the best basil I have found in town retail is at the Midtown New Sagaya. They have it in the little bags, and there's Thai basil in there as well, which makes a wonderful pesto. When making pesto, think outside the box. There's wonderful greens, there's sorrel, there's wild arugula, there's lots of things, watercress, lots of wonderful things to make pesto out of other than just basil leaves. But
They made it with nettle?
with nettle, I have not, but I have tried it before, and it's delicious.
How about chickweed?
Chickweed, I have not.
We have a lot of that.
What's that?
That's supposed to be up. So dandelion leaves.
Could be a little bitter, but you get some young ones. I mean, even arugula is bitter green, but get some really young dandelion sprouts, and I'm sure it would come out great. It's another herb I'm trying to think of. It's pretty prolific here all over Alaska. It's in the celery family. Lavish. That's it. Lovage makes a wonderful pesto. Same with celery leaves as well. Generally something you throw away because they're kind of bitter. Add like a drop of honey or agave nectar to it, and it's delicious. I think we're ready to go here. That's all of our gnocchi balls. And there's whipped cream in there too.
Oh, we can save her.
Yes, sure. So one really nice thing about this gnocchi is you don't have to boil it again. We pick these up in the restaurant right in a saute pan. Because it's so light and fluffy, it'll heat up to the core in a saute pan, as long as it's been chilled down properly and give it time. Thank you very much. You won't have to reboil them again. So I treat it kind of just almost like a tater tot.
When you say in a saute pan with a little bit of oil or something?
Yes, exactly. Yep, a little bit of oil in the saute pan. Then you could mix it. You could then add your tomato or your pomodoro sauce to it. Toss, toss, toss. Plate, a little bit of grated parm on top, or a little wild arugula, some fresh basil on top. Yum. Or another option is then like pick it up in the saute pan. Pesto is not something you want to really add to the fire. Well, because you'll break it and you'll turn it this sort of nasty dark green. But you could then take it out of the saute pan into a bowl, mix it with the pesto, and plate it, and it's wonderful. So, pesto. We've made all our gnocchi. We've got our sauce done. Time for pesto. So let's see what we got here for a weight. And is there a plug-in anywhere over here so I can move the Roku over so everybody can see? I don't want my back turned to everybody. Is there any electrical outlets on this side at all? Maybe I can stretch it. Let's see. Oh, we're in there. Perfect. It'll reach.
Okay.
Starts at raising.
Okay, who has that basil leaf we're passing around? No, you can keep it. We're
It's always nice to
good. Okay, so what else does it call for? Walnuts, cheese,
Pine nuts.
pine nuts. Okay, and I have already toasted these off. Pine nuts go quick. Yep, you can burn pine nuts really, really quick.
So how did you toast them?
350 degrees.
Okay.
Convection oven or non-convection oven is fine, but convection oven, low fan. About 6 minutes, no more than that. And make sure the oven's already warm. Onto a little sheet tray. Just at 3 minutes, check them, agitate it a little bit. They should start to steam and you're smelling nuts. As soon as you smell pine nuts, they're probably already burnt. So, yeah, it's usually how it goes. You're like, oh, hey, pine nuts, that's right.
If you start smelling
All right.
sap.
And how many pine nuts? We're looking at 60 grams.
Yeah.
We'll zero it out. Add our walnuts. Walnuts can go a little bit longer. 8 minutes, roughly. 350, low fan. Yep. And what are we at? 80, I think.
But if you're doing just a few, like we would be doing in our home, just in a saute pan on the stove would be.
I would probably refrain from doing it on a saute pan only because you get very uneven cooking that way. When you're trying to toast something, you get better results in the oven with circulating warm air rather than just hitting one side, turning your back on it and going, ooh, I gotta flip that and get the other side, and then what happened to the sides, like the other sides. So typically you're better off in an oven.
Do you do the same way with like toasted sesame seeds? Do you do those in an oven?
Toasted sesame seeds, yes, I would do it in an oven without a fan because they'll blow around. Yeah, I learned that I think my first week in culinary school. Yeah, made a big mess.
But in the oven?
In the oven.
Again, in a plastic pan type of thing?
No,
Or
no,
you
in
can
an
use-
aluminum,
you can
like a
use
sheet tray.
A sheet tray,
Yeah,
okay.
a sheet tray or a little sizzle tin, or even a saute pan is fine. It'll just take longer to heat up a steel saute pan, or if you have a steel sheet tray, it'll take longer to heat that up. So you'd have slightly uneven cooking. On an aluminum tray, it's going to heat up faster, cool down faster. One thing I didn't mention with the pine nuts, when you take them out of the oven, take them off the sheet tray and put them into something else. That way we won't get the carryover cooking. So what we want to do in our Roboku or food processor is chop the nuts first, and then we're going to take the nuts out. And then we're going to hack up all our basil. So you could start with the walnuts first and chop them up, or just break them with your hands, get them a little bit smaller in size, closer to the pine nuts. The challenge I always have with a home food processor is all the safety functions on it. You gotta, like, for adding just liquid, a lot of times you have to line the base up, put the blade in, put the top on, turn the top, put the next top in, put another safety device in before you can turn it on. It's like, come on, I can't even fit my hand in there anyway, right? So this one's been hot wired. This is what I use in the restaurant. It's kind of fun. It's permanently on. It's plugged in, but it's permanently on. I rip the switch out. I actually turn it on with with this, I make the connection. So I've eliminated all the safety devices so I can actually open it up and access it. I do not recommend doing this at home, but it works great. We just stick this in, make the connection. It works awesome.
That's why chefs always carry those thermometers in their
So much
pocket.
for UL testing, right?
Let's see, are we gonna...
It's gonna make it. If
Will
you turn
somebody
it
hold
around.
this while I make it?
Yeah.
We don't have a little extension cord anywhere, like a tiny one?
If you turn it around a bit, it'll
We
reach.
stopped looking for you, so we'll get you.
Keep that on the
Yeah.
back side.
Oh, we're in there. We're good. It's like you're the genius and I'm not. All right, great, we're good. We'll add our nuts. So, also what I love about this sort of modified version of a Roboku is that you can't just turn it on really and walk away from it either, or else if you do this with pine nuts and walnuts, you're going to make butter really quick. That's not what you want. For me, I like a very rustic pesto, so I like to taste the nuts and get little bits of crunch in there as well. So we're just going to pulse this a little bit. Anybody like that? You guys don't have these at home, they're awesome. Oh, perfect, thank you. Okay, so I have not made butter, but I made just ground nuts. If you notice, there's no garlic in the recipe. So everyone's like, that's not pesto. Well, traditionally in Italy, and studying in Italy, I've learned that Americans like garlic and everything. Italians will use garlic to season and flavor, but it's a very dominating flavor. It's very overwhelming. You want to taste the chlorophyll. You want to taste the basil. Garlic, you're just going to taste garlic. So you can't add it. This is just my recipe, but sky's the limit. Add garlic as much as you want. So our nuts are chopped. We're going to add part of our basil. If we just stuff it all in there, it's not really going to break down. Limbo here. I have some ice next to the cool and
Yeah.
it did not break an ice block the roof.
Where are they? They smell like popcorn.
So we're going to add a little bit of ice. So back to the centrifuge. If I just turn this on without ice in there, it's going to warm up the pesto or the basil a little bit. Probably start to hear this crackling a little bit. We're making our ice colder than it is. Aww. How old?
6 months.
6 months. I have a little 4-month-old son at home. I'm so madly in love with him.
Wait till he turns 16.
Yes. His name is Elias. Elias David Gerber. Okay, we'll just feed the Roboku. Here we go. And you could chop this up by hand after, but if you're careful pulsing it, you can do it right in here. Can you smell that? It smells so good. Oh my God.
So do you warn people in your kitchen at home that there's certain items that have been jerry-rigged?
Yeah, mostly my wife. I have to inform her of everything that's been modified. But yeah, the kitchen's well aware of the modifications, which is new hires get the lowdown pretty quick. There's a few more of these in the kitchen. OSHA would not be happy with me. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit more ice.
Now, how do you know to add more ice?
Well, I'm going to add more basil here, and most of this ice is pretty chopped up already. Thank you so much. You're awesome. But you want to add the least amount of ice necessary because you don't want to dilute. Plus, when you're adding your oil, you don't want it to break either. So the least amount really required. 1, to help break up all this beautiful basil leaves. 2, to retain the color and allow you, once you start to incorporate your oil, you need it pretty much on. You're not pulsing it. You're making an emulsion. The ice will help you keep this chlorophyll bright green.
If you're using some of the other leaves, do the ice bath also?
Oh, you mean to preserve it for?
Yeah, for sorrel and lavender and celery.
Probably more critical for basil. Sorrel's a much hardier leaf, you know, so it probably lasts just fine. But it's a great way to preserve herbs if you want that fresh taste versus a dried taste. You've all used dried thyme and even dry bay leaves. It's not the same. It works, you know, but to have the fresh stuff is really nice. Chives are another great one. Spring onions. You can never find ramps as well. Very popular back east, Virginia. But there are wild onions that grow here in Alaska. I found some on an island out on Skillack Lake. There's an island out there that's got some wild onions. Makes a wonderful pesto. Great with a gnocchi. This does void the warranty. If you're all interested in modifying your own Robica at home, it will void the warranty. Okay.
If you use wild onions, do you add basil or just onions?
You could add basil, but if you're really going for that onion, fresh ramp or spring onion flavor, let it shine. No, it's. If you're on your first date, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so now we're going to incorporate our nuts back in. We're going to add a little bit of oil.
Do you add morels into your regimen when they're available?
Absolutely, yeah. We have them on the menu right now with our king salmon. They're braised morels, but they are coming out of Oregon. I love fresh morels, but I actually prefer the flavor of dried morels and then rehydrated because you really taste the ash. You really taste the forest floor a little bit more. Once it's dried, it's almost intensified. So you take morels, you pour boiling water over it, you agitate them to kind of get the dirt to the bottom, and then you reserve that liquid. You use that liquid to braise your mushrooms in. And it just intensifies, it reduces down, and it's just explosive mushroom flavor. It's really, really nice. How much oil? 400 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil, I think. Okay. Let's measure this out. What do you got here? What's that? Extra virgin olive oil.
Okay.
Is it 400 or 500? 400. So there's a little bit of this reserved for the fat cap, so we won't add all of it, but we'll get pretty close. Add just a little bit to help make the emulsification happen.
So the 400 milliliters includes the fat cap that you're talking about?
Correct, yeah, and it's just a small pour of it. And then we're going to turn this on, leave it on, and start to incorporate our oil. Just steady stream.
You make your own mayonnaise?
What's that?
You make your own mayonnaise?
I do. Aioli mayonnaise. Yeah. Yeah. I don't appreciate like mayonnaise in a jar. Oh, we're having a wonderful.
What oil do you use
For mayo, generally a very neutral oil. If I'm trying to make something flavorful in an aioli, like a smoked pimento or roasted red pepper, I'll use a grapeseed oil or a vegetable oil. I generally stay clear of corn oil. I'm afraid of corn in the United States. So,
Monsanto.
yes, exactly. Burn the fields. Yeah, it's there's better oils out there. Okay. From here, this is going to go into the bowl. We don't cook cheese. If we added the cheese, that's allowing the breakdown of the pesto a little bit more that we're trying to achieve the bright green color. So we'll just fold in our cheese.
So how much oil is left in your measuring cup?
Oh, probably about 100, just shy of 100 milliliters. So 300 for the pesto, about 100 for the fat cap. And this is if you just want to store it, which, you know, if you're having a dinner party, it's always easier to make this.
So you can take that right now and put it in the ice cube tray and freeze it?
You could, yes, and you'd want to wrap your ice cube tray in saran wrap or freeze it and then cover it with a little fat cap, and that'll help preserve it. Okay, we'll grate some cheese. How much cheese are we adding here?
170.
170. All right. I'm sure we have enough cheese here. Oh yeah, we're good. I know. Just got really quiet right here. Uh-huh. So another wonderful cheese to use, Grana Padano, Parmigiano Reggiano, or Pecorino Romano. Pecorino Romano is a sheep's milk cheese that's generally aged for like 90 days. Wonderful, like kind of fat salt crystals in there. You've probably all had it. It's excellent. It's a great finishing cheese. Yes, yeah. Be creative with the nuts. You can use anything. I mean, traditionally, pesto would have pine nuts in it. Chestnuts are wonderful. Toasted hazelnuts are great. Get creative with pesto. Mix up different nuts with different leaves. Find what works, find what doesn't work. Chestnuts and arugula go great together because chestnuts are a little bit on the sweet side. Arugula is on the bitter side, so it kind of helps chop away at that.
Kristen Burke?
Woohoo!
How old is she?
I know 6 months.
She's gonna love you.
I know, I'm excited. She's not a big eater yet. I'm trying to get more food in.
Yeah, sure. What did you start with?
And well, she's wasting away, I know, but.
What food did you start with?
We've tried everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just milk and
Yeah,
rice
sure.
cereal mixed together, but not such a fan.
No.
And now my pediatrician's like, she's getting a little older. Time to wean her off of SPM all the time. So.
Uh-huh. Anyone ever start their children on avocado? That's our
A friend
plan.
of mine.
Avocado?
With avocado and
Quinoa. Wow. I thought of quinoa, but
It's
definitely
hard
gonna
to
go.
choke on.
What's that?
It's hard to choke on.
Right, that's true. Yep. I love avocados. Okay, we're gonna check for seasoning. See where we're at. Might need to add a touch more salt to it. Always season it at the end. You're adding cheese that is relatively salty. And we're good. A little bit more. How we doing on time? We okay? Good. Okay. Okay, so from here, you could then just store it in, like at home, a ceramic container, anything that's dark, so light's not going to pass through. You could just fill the container, and then we're going to add a little fat cap on top, and then ideally you would then put a layer of like plastic film, saran wrap, over the top, and then a little bit of tin foil. Label, date it, put it in your fridge. It'll keep easily for 3 weeks. All you have to do is scrape off the top layer of the fat cap, and you'll find this beautiful bright green pesto underneath.
Do you put the saran wrap on the fat cap or just?
Directly right on the fat cap, and then another piece over the top just to keep the oxygen out, and then you're golden. Everybody see that in the mirror there? We're just covering it with fat. The fat will solidify in a refrigerator and make a wonderful pesto for later.
And you would do that if you're freezing it too? In ice cube trays?
Well, yeah, I would probably just freeze basil in an ice cube tray, not pesto.
Like I said.
But if you wanted to make pesto at a later time with those basil leaves, I would do that. Yeah. Any questions about the pesto? Anybody? Anything? Okay. So our gnocchi's done, our pesto's done. We need to blend our sauce, and we're good. I made another batch and a half of gnocchi this morning.
Why did you save your fennels stems?
Because I love to chew on them. And you can do all sorts of fun stuff. You could use this for a stock. The little leaves here make a nice garnish for things as well. I'll also candy fennel. I'll take this, I'll slice it, or use like star anise as well. And then put them on a sill pad, dehydrate them, and you've got little fennel chips. It's fun to chew on, little candy. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't like licorice, fennel's not a big, you won't really notice it in the sauce, but because the acid will chop away at it, but I love black licorice. It's one of my most favorite things. When I lived in Girdwood and I would drive back and forth to the Captain Cook Hotel late at night, like midnight driving home, I'd save myself 3 little licorice bites in the glove box. They'd freeze in the winter. Vitamix, anyone have a Vitamix?
Yeah.
Vitamix are great. Yeah. I can't wait to make baby food. So excited about cooking for my baby. Okay, almost hot there. And we're Good. Everybody hungry? Gnocchi. And just fell absolutely in love with it. I married a wonderful woman from Southern California that was born on the beach. And, I brought her here for our honeymoon. And we spent a week in Denali and had like the most unheard of weather. This was 10 years ago now. It was incredible. We saw Denali every day. We backpacked through Denali. There's a mama bear or so and her 2 cubs walking on the hillside as we're walking in with, you know, a millimeter of tent material protecting us from the environment. And then we went south and we kayaked through Ayalik Bay for a week. Cover with a towel, or you'll have it on the ceiling or on your outfit. Yummy. Don't stick your hand in there. Are you making fun of my food processor?
No.
It's okay. Exactly.
Did you learn that from somebody, or were you just fiddling around?
No, I'm just messing around of. So again, you could just go back to boiling water with these if you wanted to, or if you want to get that nice kind of crispy caramelization, you could just saute them, season our pan a little bit. Someone's excited about gnocchi. We'll go get our pesto real quick. Okay, man, cool it. That I noticed. I've had my eye on all morning. All right. Everybody see that? The beauty is there's still some starchy water in there as well. Nice little ridges. Pasta's coating on there nicely. All right. Voila. And with this with a little cheese. Kind of like a play. Why not?
I guess I missed it.